So even as summer starts turning into fall, hydrangeas are still blooming. But how do we care for them after they bloom? Well, let's ask the guy who has the answer for everything that happens in the garden, Ciscoe Morris. Hey, Ciscoe, it is so good to see you.
Nice to see you, Amity. This is so fun.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, first of all, I interrupted you. I would like you to give the ooh la la, please.
Oh la la.
Now,
many different ways.
well, now we can certainly get started. And a question I have from my own garden right now is, how do we know when the hydrangea is done blooming? And can we do anything to extend the bloom?
There's absolutely nothing you could do to extend the bloom. It's the way it is with hydrangeas. There's one thing you could do, and that's make sure that you plant your hydrangea in an area that's not an afternoon sun, because that'll make the flowers fade a lot quicker. Other than that, there's not much you could do. You know, they'll start out one color, and then, you know, they'll start out really beautiful. This is Miss Sayori, by the way. This is the best hydrangea on earth. Everybody should run out buy one. And then over time, you know, they just kind of fade to a different color, and you just got to enjoy that kind of change they go through.
So beautiful. I love that purple one, Ciscoe. I don't know if you remember this, but you helped me revive my butterfly bushes when I massacred them last fall. So let's avoid a repeat performance with my hydrangeas. How do we cut them down? How far do we go so that we don't butcher them?
You know, part of this depends on what kind of hydrangea you have. So this is your typical mop head hydrangea. And the thing about these that's really important to know is that they only bloom on growth that occurred this season. So next spring is when you prune these, not till then. But then if, you know, hydrangeas always get too big, people get really frustrated by it, and they cut them way down. If you do that, if you cut off all the growth that occurred this summer, next spring, then guess what? You're going to get no flowers for the whole season.
No. I had no idea. And I do, actually. I have a hydrangea bush in my front yard. I didn't plant it. It's been there for a million billion years, but it's beautiful. So do hydrangeas need to be fed? And if so, what?
Well, I fertilize my hydrangeas, but I got to tell you this. You don't want to over-fertilize your hydrangeas. If you have hydrangeas that are doing perfect, no matter you don't feed them and they're great, then don't feed them at all. You don't need to. But if you're going to, get something that's higher in the second number than the first number, and I would use organic fertilizer. You just go to the nursery and say, I want organic, and I want something good for hydrangeas, and they'll give you a good fertilizer. I only do it once a year in the spring, probably in April or March.
Okay, good to know. So another question for you. Our producer, Susie, she's told me that you could actually change the color of a hydrangea. Is that possible? And how do you do that?
Yeah, you betcha. You know, most hydrangeas, what they do is you buy a red one, you bring it home and plant it, and it turns blue, and everybody goes, why did it do that, you know? Well, it depends on how acid the soil is, how blue the flower is. It's actually the ammonium in the soil, the aluminum in the soil, and they can't pick up the aluminum if the soil is very alkaline. So if you want blue, you could buy this stuff. It's called bluing formula, and you got to use this in spring every month according to the directions. You put so much around it, it'll turn them blue as could be if you do that. But if you want pink, if you buy a red one, you want it to stay red, then what you've got to do is you have to put lime. So you could buy lime at the nursery. You put about a cup around the hydrangea, work it into the ground. You do that in fall, and if you do that every year for 5 years, you'll have a red hydrangea. It takes that long.
My goodness. I had no idea, but that is really good advice. And we have so many more questions for you about preparing for fall, but we ran out of time. Ciscoe, it is so good to see you. We'll see you soon.
Hey, see you again. Bye-bye.